In the far reaches of the Andromeda Galaxy, on a swampy planet called Zorothia, there lived an alien queen named Valara. She was born into royalty, but her life had been anything but easy. From the moment she took her first breath, her people judged her harshly. Her skin shimmered like molten silver instead of the deep green that was considered beautiful among her kind. Her limbs were longer than usual, giving her an awkward gait when she walked. These traits made her stand out in ways no one admired. In a society obsessed with beauty, Valara's appearance marked her as different, and being different on Zorothia meant being unwanted. Valara grew up surrounded by whispers and cold stares. Even within her own royal court, where respect should have been automatic, she faced rejection at every turn. The other Zorothians saw her as a flaw in their otherwise perfect lineage. They avoided her during gatherings and excluded her from important discussions. Despite this, Valara was not someone who gave up easily. She poured herself into learning and tried to prove her worth through knowledge and hard work. She studied science, history, and diplomacy, becoming one of the most intelligent beings on the planet. But intelligence was not enough to win over her people. To them, beauty was everything, and without it, nothing else mattered. Far away from Zorothia, on a small blue planet known as Earth, a young man named Ethan Carter was preparing for the adventure of a lifetime. Ethan had always been curious about the stars. Growing up in a quiet town in Colorado, he would spend hours staring at the night sky, wondering what secrets the universe held. When he heard about Earth's space exploration program, he knew he had to be part of it. After years of training and dedication, Ethan was selected for a mission aboard the Starship Odyssey. The goal of the mission was simple yet ambitious: explore new worlds, establish contact with alien civilizations, and bring back valuable knowledge to help humanity grow. Ethan wasn't just chosen because of his skills. He also had a reputation for being kind-hearted and open-minded. While some astronauts focused solely on advancing Earth's interests, Ethan believed in building bridges between species. He wanted to understand others, even if they were completely different from him. His optimism sometimes earned him teasing from his fellow crew members, but Ethan didn't mind. He knew that true progress came from mutual respect and understanding that the journey to Zorothia was long and challenging. The Odyssey traveled through vast stretches of empty space, encountering strange phenomena along the way. For months, Ethan and the crew drifted in the silence of the cosmos, unsure of what awaited them at their destination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they arrived at Zorothia. The planet looked unwelcoming from orbit, covered in thick fog and dotted with acidic lakes. As the ship descended, the crew braced themselves for whatever lay ahead. Upon landing, the humans were greeted by a group of Zorothian officials. These aliens were tall and elegant, with shimmering green skin and graceful movements. They spoke in a language filled with musical tones, which the crew struggled to understand at first. Through translators and gestures, the two groups began exchanging information. The Zorothians expressed interest in Earth's technology, while the humans hoped to learn more about Zorothian culture and resources. While the rest of the crew focused on negotiations, Ethan decided to take a walk around the area. He had always been drawn to nature, and he wanted to see more of the planet beyond the formal meetings. As he wandered away from the landing site, he noticed a figure sitting alone near a crystalline lake. It was an alien woman, dressed in simple robes that highlighted her unusual features. Her skin glowed faintly, reflecting the dim light of Zorothia's twin suns. At first glance, Ethan thought she looked striking, though not in the conventional sense. There was something captivating about her presence, as if she carried a weight few could comprehend. Curious, Ethan approached cautiously. "Hello," he said softly, using broken Zorothian phrases he had picked up during the trip. The alien turned to look at him, her large eyes filled with surprise. Instead of responding in her native tongue, she replied in perfect English. "You're human," she said, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. Ethan nodded, introducing himself. "I'm Ethan Carter." I'm here with the Odyssey. The alien introduced herself as Vilara. She explained that she had studied human languages by intercepting Earth's radio signals. As they talked, Ethan learned about her struggles and how her own people rejected her because of her appearance. Despite this, Vilara remained hopeful and determined to make a difference. Ethan listened intently, moved by her story and struck by her intelligence. Unlike many of the Zorithians he had met so far, Vilara seemed genuine and thoughtful as the suns dipped below the horizon. Casting a golden glow over the landscape, Ethan realized he had found something special in Vilara. She wasn't just another alien. She was someone who understood what it meant to feel out of place. For the first time since arriving on Zorathia, Ethan felt a connection that went beyond words or appearances. Little did he know this meeting would change both their lives forever. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a sense of curiosity he hadn't felt in a long time. His encounter with Vilara the previous evening had left a deep impression on him. He couldn't stop thinking about her intelligence, her resilience, and the way she carried herself despite the rejection she faced. It was clear that Vilara was special, not because of how she looked, but because of who she was. Ethan knew he wanted to learn more about her, even if it meant going against the expectations of his crew or the ZOR at HAIANS. As the Odyssey's team prepared for another round of meetings with the Zorithian Council, Ethan found excuses to slip away. He told his captain he needed fresh air to clear his mind, though in truth, he was eager to see Vilara again. He made his way back to the crystalline lake where they had first met, hoping she might be there. To his relief, she was sitting in the same spot, gazing at the water as if lost in thought. "Good morning," Ethan said softly, not wanting to startle her. Vilara turned and smiled faintly when she saw him. "You came back," she said, her tone calm but carrying a hint of surprise. Ethan nodded. "I did. I wanted to talk more, if that's okay with you." Vilara gestured for him to sit beside her. For a while they sat in silence, watching the ripples on the lake's surface. Then Vilara began to speak. She told Ethan about her childhood, the loneliness she felt growing up, the cruel comments from other Zorithians, and the pressure to conform to their impossible standards of beauty. She explained how her family had distanced themselves from her, ashamed of her appearance and worried it would tarnish their reputation. Despite all this, Vilara refused to give up. She threw herself into her studies, determined to prove that she was more than just her looks. Ethan listened intently, his heart aching for her. He couldn't imagine what it must have been like to grow up feeling so unwanted. On Earth, people were judged harshly too, but at least there were places where differences were celebrated. Here on Zorathia, it seemed like beauty was the only thing that mattered. "I'm sorry you had to go through all that," Ethan said finally. "No one should have to feel the way you did." Vilara looked at him, her large eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you for saying that," she replied. "Most people don't understand or they pretend not to. But you seem different." Their conversation continued for hours. Ethan shared stories about his life on Earth, his love for exploration, and his dreams of connecting with other species. Vilara listened with genuine interest, asking questions and offering insights that showed just how much she had learned from studying human culture. In return, she taught Ethan about Zorithian traditions, explaining the importance of harmony with nature and the role of the royal family in maintaining balance on the planet. As the days passed, Ethan and Vilara spent more and more time together. They explored the surrounding areas, venturing into forests filled with bioluminescent plants and climbing hills that offered breathtaking views of the planet's rugged landscape. With each outing, their bond grew stronger. Ethan admired Vilara's strength and determination, while Vilara appreciated Ethan's kindness and openness. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen not for her appearance, but for who she was inside. However, their growing connection did not go unnoticed. Word of their friendship spread quickly among the Zorithians, and it wasn't long before rumors began to circulate. Some whispered that Ethan was using Vilara to gain political leverage. while others accused her of betraying her people by associating with a human. The tension reached a boiling point when Valara's brother, Prince Kale, confronted them during one of their walks. Kale was everything Valar was not: tall, elegant, and strikingly beautiful by Zorathian standards. He approached them with an air of authority, his expression cold and disapproving. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, glaring at Ethan. "Why are you wasting your time with this outsider?" Ethan stood his ground, refusing to back down. "I'm not wasting anyone's time," he replied firmly. "Valara and I are friends. That's all." "Friends?" Kale scoffed. "Do you think we don't know what you're really after? You humans always want something. Power, resources, influence. Don't play innocent with us." Valara stepped forward, placing herself between Ethan and her brother. "Leave him alone, Kale," she said, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. "He hasn't done anything wrong. If anything, he's shown me more kindness than my own people ever have." Kale sneered at her. "Kindness? Is that what you call it? Or is it pity? Face it, Valara, you'll never be accepted here. Stop embarrassing yourself and focus on your duties as a member of the royal family." The words hit Valara like a blow, but she refused to let her brother see her pain. Instead, she turned to Ethan and said quietly, "Let's go." Without waiting for a response, she walked away, leaving Kale standing alone. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then followed her, casting one last glance at the prince before catching up. Back at the lake, Valara sat silently, staring at the water. Ethan could see the hurt in her eyes, but he didn't know what to say to make it better. After a while, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's right. I'll never be accepted here. No matter what I do, I'll always be the unwanted queen." Ethan knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "That's not true," he said. "You may not be accepted by them, but that doesn't mean you're not worthy. You're smart, brave, and kind. Those are qualities anyone would admire." Valara looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. "Why are you so different from everyone else?" she asked. "Why do you see me differently?" Ethan smiled softly. "Because I look beyond appearances. I care about who you are, not what you look like. And trust me, Valara, you're extraordinary." For the first time in years, Valara felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she didn't need the approval of her people to find happiness. Maybe all she needed was someone who believed in her. As she sat there with Ethan, surrounded by the quiet beauty of Zorathiya, she realized that she wasn't as alone as she had always thought. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan and Valara's friendship deepened. They spent most of their time together, exploring the planet and sharing stories about their lives. Ethan learned more about Zorathiya's history, its people, and the challenges they faced living on such a harsh world. Valara, in turn, discovered new things about Earth, its cultures, its struggles, and the resilience of humanity. Despite their differences, they found common ground in their desire to make the world a better place. One afternoon, as they walked through a dense forest filled with glowing plants, Valara stopped suddenly. She pointed to a cluster of strange, crystalline structures jutting out from the ground. "These are ancient ruins," she explained. "They were left behind by an old civilization that once thrived here. No one knows much about them anymore, but I've always been fascinated." Ethan's eyes lit up with curiosity. "Do you think we can explore them?" he asked. Valara hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I've never gone inside before. It's forbidden, but I trust you. If anyone can help me uncover their secrets, it's you." Together, they stepped into the ruins. The air inside was cool and damp, and the walls shimmered faintly, casting eerie shadows on the floor. As they ventured deeper, they discovered carvings and symbols etched into the stone. Valara traced her fingers over them, trying to decipher their meaning. "These markings tell a story," she said, "about a great treasure hidden beneath the planet's surface. A treasure that could change everything." Ethan frowned. What kind of treasure? I'm not sure, Vylara admitted. But if we find it, it might give us leverage against the council. Maybe even enough to challenge Kale and his followers. The idea excited Ethan, but it also worried him. That sounds dangerous, he said. If the council finds out, they'll stop at nothing to silence us. Vylara looked at him, her expression serious. I know, but I'm tired of being pushed around. If this is my chance to stand up for myself and for others like me, I have to take it. Ethan didn't argue. He knew how much this meant to her, and he wanted to support her in any way he could. All right, he said. Let's do it. Together. Over the next few days, Ethan and Vylara began planning their journey. They studied maps of Zorothia, marking potential locations where the treasure might be hidden. They gathered supplies, food, water, tools, and prepared themselves for the challenges ahead. Along the way, their bond grew even stronger. Ethan admired Vylara's determination, while Vylara appreciated Ethan's unwavering loyalty. For the first time in her life, she felt like she had someone who truly believed in her. Their preparations did not go unnoticed. Rumors spread quickly among the Zorothians, and soon the council summoned Ethan to appear before them. When he arrived, he was met with hostile stares. Prince Kale stood at the center of the room, his arms crossed and his expression cold. What is your intention? With my sister? Kale demanded, his voice sharp. You've been seen sneaking around with her, ignoring our customs and traditions. Do you think you can manipulate her for your own gain? Ethan shook his head firmly. I'm not manipulating anyone. Vylara and I are friends. That's all. Friends? Kale spat. Don't insult my intelligence. You're planning something dangerous, and I won't allow it. Before Ethan could respond, Vylara entered the chamber. Her presence silenced the room. She walked straight to Ethan's side and faced her brother. Leave him alone, Kale, she said, her voice steady. He hasn't done anything wrong. If you have a problem, take it up with me. Kale glared at her. You're making a fool of yourself, Vylara. Associating with this human will only bring shame to our family. Is that what you want? No, Vylara replied. What I want is to be treated with respect. To be seen for who I am, not for how I look. Something none of you have ever done. Her. Words sparked murmurs among the council members. Some seemed uncomfortable, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Kale clenched his fists, his anger boiling over. Fine, he snapped. If that's how you feel, then leave. Leave this council, leave this city, and never come back. For a moment, Vylara hesitated. The weight of her brother's words hung heavy in the air. Then, with a deep breath, she lifted her chin and said, If that's what it takes to live. Freely, then so be it. Without another word, she turned and left the chamber, Ethan close behind her. Outside, Vylara took a moment to compose herself. She knew she had just made a bold decision, one that would change her life forever. But instead of feeling afraid, she felt a sense of liberation. For years, she had lived under the judgment and control of others. Now, for the first time, she was free to choose her own path. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Are you okay? He asked gently. Vylara nodded. I will be. Thank you for standing by me. Always, Ethan replied. Now, let's focus on finding that treasure. We've got work to do. With renewed determination, they set off toward the coordinates they had marked on their map. The journey was long and difficult, taking them across jagged cliffs, through dense jungles, and into caverns filled with strange creatures. At times, the terrain was treacherous, and they had to rely on each other to keep moving forward. But through it all, their spirits remained high. They talked, laughed, and encouraged each other, drawing strength from their shared goal. Finally, after days of travel, they reached their destination, a massive underground vault buried deep beneath the planet's surface. The entrance was sealed by a massive door covered in intricate carvings. Vylara examined them carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration. This is it, she said. The final clue. If we can unlock this, we'll find the treasure. Ethan studied the carvings alongside her. Do you know how to open it? Vylara hesitated. I think so. These symbols refer to balance and harmony. We need to align them properly. Working together, they manipulate the carvings until the door finally creaked open with a low rumble. Inside, they found a vast chamber filled with artifacts, ancient tools, weapons, and devices unlike anything they had ever seen. But what caught their attention most was a large, glowing orb resting on a pedestal in the center of the room. As they approached it, the orb pulsed with light, and a mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. Who dares disturb my slumber? Ethan and Vylara exchanged nervous glances. Then, stepping forward, Vylara addressed the voice. I am Vylara, rightful heir to the throne of Zorothia. I seek the knowledge and power to bring justice to my people. The orb hummed softly, as if considering her words. Then it spoke again. You are brave, child. Very well. I shall aid you in your quest. Use my power wisely. With that, the orb dimmed, and the chamber fell silent. Ethan looked at Vylara, his eyes wide with awe. What just happened? He asked. Vylara smiled, a mixture of excitement and relief washing over her. We've found our treasure, she said. And now we have the means to change everything. Armed with the glowing orb and a newfound sense of purpose, Ethan and Vylara began their journey back to the capital city. The orb pulsed faintly in Vylara's hands, its light casting soft shadows on the ground as they walked. Though neither of them fully understood its power, they could feel its energy, a quiet hum that seemed alive, almost like it was waiting for the right moment to reveal its secrets. The trip back wasn't easy. They faced harsh winds, treacherous cliffs, and sudden storms that soaked them to the bone. But despite the challenges, their spirits remained high. For Vylara, this was more than just a mission. It was her chance to reclaim her dignity and prove herself to her people. For Ethan, it was an opportunity to stand by someone he cared about deeply, someone who had shown him strength and courage in ways he'd never imagined. As they traveled, they talked about what lay ahead. Vylara explained that the council and especially her brother Kale would not take kindly to her return. They'll see this as an act of rebellion, she said, her voice steady but tinged with worry. Kale will try to stop us, no matter what. Ethan nodded. Then we'll be ready. We've got the orb, and we've got each other. That's enough. Vylara smiled faintly. You have too much faith in me. No, Ethan replied firmly. I have faith in us. Together we can do this. When they finally reached the outskirts of the capital city, they paused to gather their thoughts. The towering spires of the royal palace loomed in the distance, gleaming under the twin suns. Vylara took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. Then, with Ethan by her side, she stepped forward. News of their arrival spread quickly. By the time they reached the palace gates, a crowd had gathered Zorthians of all ages, some curious, others hostile. Whispers filled the air as they passed. Through the streets, Vylara ignored the stares and kept moving, her head held high. She knew this wouldn't be easy, but she was done hiding, done letting others dictate her worth. Inside the palace, the council chamber buzzed with tension. Prince Kale stood at the center, his expression dark and unyielding. When Vylara entered, followed closely by Ethan, the room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, and for a moment she felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her. But then she remembered the orb in her hands and the promise it held. Straightening her posture, she addressed the council. I have returned, she said, her voice clear and strong. Not as the outcast you tried to cast aside, but as your rightful queen. I bring with me something that will change Zorothia forever. Treasure hidden beneath our planet, meant to guide us toward a better future. Kale sneered. A treasure? Don't make us laugh. You think some shiny trinket will save you? You're delusional. It's not just a trinket, Vylara shot back. This is proof that beauty isn't everything. That intelligence, innovation, and unity are what truly matter. And if you refuse to see that, then you don't deserve to lead. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Some seemed intrigued by Vilara's words, while others looked skeptical. Kao, however, wasn't willing to back down. "Enough of this nonsense," he shouted. "Guards, seize them!" Before the guards could move, Vilara raised the orb above. Her head, its glow intensified, bathing the room in a warm golden light. The mechanical voice echoed once more. "I am the guardian of Zorathia's legacy. My power belongs to those who seek harmony and justice." The council stared in stunned silence as the orb floated out of Vilara's hands and hovered in the air. It emitted a low hum, and suddenly holographic images began to appear around the room. They showed scenes from Zorathia's past rise and fall of civilizations, the struggles of its people, and the lessons learned along the way. Most importantly, they revealed the flaws in the current system, where beauty was valued above all else, leaving countless individuals marginalized and forgotten. "This is our history," Vilara said, turning to face the council. "Our ancestors built this world not through appearances, but through cooperation and wisdom. Yet we've strayed so far from their vision. It's time to change that." The council members were visibly shaken. Even Kao seemed unsure of himself, though he tried to mask it with anger. "You think this changes anything?" He spat. "You're still the same unwanted sister who doesn't belong here." "You're wrong," Vilara replied calmly. "I may not look like you, but I've always belonged here. And now, thanks to this orb, I have the means to restore balance to our society. If you oppose me, you oppose the very essence of what makes Zorathia great." Her words struck a chord with many in the room. Some council members began to nod in agreement, while others whispered among themselves. Kao realized he was losing control of the situation. In a desperate attempt to regain authority, he lunged toward Vilara, intending to grab the orb. But before he could reach it, the orb unleashed a burst of light that sent him stumbling backward. "Enough!" a voice boomed. Everyone turned to see an elder member of the council rise from his seat. He was one of the oldest Zorithians in the room, his skin weathered and his eyes filled with wisdom. "We have listened to Queen Vilara's words, and we have seen the truth of our mistakes. It is time to embrace a new path, one guided by fairness and understanding." The other council members murmured in agreement. Slowly, one by one, they stood and bowed their heads to Vilara, acknowledging her as their rightful leader. Kao, realizing he was outnumbered, clenched his fists in frustration, but said nothing. With a final glare at Vilara, he stormed out of the chamber, vowing revenge under his breath. As the tension eased, Vilara turned to Ethan, her eyes shining with gratitude. "We did it," she said softly. "We actually did it." Ethan smiled. "You did it. I just helped." "No," Vilara replied. "Without you, I wouldn't have had the courage to stand up to them. You believed in me when no one else did." Their moment was interrupted by cheers erupting outside the palace. Word of Vilara's victory had spread, and the citizens of Zorathia were celebrating in the streets. Many had grown tired of the councils, rigid rules, and saw Vilara's rise as a sign of hope. For the first time in years, they dared to dream of a brighter future. Over the following weeks, Vilara worked tirelessly to implement changes. She abolished the outdated laws that prioritized beauty over merit and introduced reforms aimed at creating equal opportunities for all Zorithians. Under her leadership, the planet began to transform. Schools opened their doors to students of every background. Businesses flourished as creativity replaced conformity, and communities came together to rebuild trust and cooperation. Ethan stayed by Vilara's side throughout it all, offering advice and support whenever she needed it. Though he missed Earth at times, he knew he had found something extraordinary on Zorathia. His bond with Vilara had grown into something deeper, a love that transcended species and appearances. And though some Zorathians still viewed him with suspicion, most came to respect him for standing by their queen during her darkest moments. One evening, as the twin suns set over the horizon, Ethan and Vylara stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The streets below were alive with laughter and music, a testament to the progress they had made. Vylara leaned against Ethan, her silver skin glowing softly in the fading light. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met?" she asked quietly. Ethan thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No, because I believe everything happens for a reason. Meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me." Vylara smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. "And meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me." As they stood there, hand in hand, they knew their journey was far from over. There would still be challenges ahead, but they faced them together with hope, determination, and an unshakable belief in the power of unity. Vylara's reign brought a wave of change to Zorothea, but it wasn't without its challenges. While many citizens embraced her vision of a fairer society, others resisted. Some members of the old council, including Kale, refused to accept her leadership and worked tirelessly to undermine her authority. They spread rumors, stirred up dissent, and even plotted secret meetings to rally support for their cause. Ethan noticed how these constant threats weighed on Vylara. Though she tried to stay strong, he could see the worry in her eyes. One evening, as they sat together in the royal gardens, Ethan reached out and gently took her hand. "You don't have to face this alone," he said softly. "I'm here with you." Vylara sighed, looking down at their intertwined hands. "I know," she replied. "But sometimes it feels like no matter what I do, there will always be people who hate me. People who can't see past my appearance or forgive me for challenging their traditions." "You're doing the right thing," Ethan said firmly. "Change is never easy, especially when it goes against everything people believe. But you're proving that it's possible, and that's something worth fighting for." Vylara managed a small smile. "Thank you for reminding me. Sometimes I need to hear those words." The next morning, news arrived that Kale had gathered a group of loyalists in the northern mountains. They were planning to march on the capital, determined to overthrow Vylara and restore the old ways. The palace guards urged Vylara to prepare for battle, but she hesitated. She didn't want violence. She wanted peace. "We can't let them attack the city," Ethan said, when she shared her concerns with him. "If we act quickly, maybe we can stop them before it escalates." Vylara nodded. "You're right. Let's go talk to them." "If anyone can reason with Kale, it's me," Ethan frowned. "Are you sure that's safe?" "What if they won't listen?" "I have to try," Vylara insisted. "If I don't, then all the progress we've made will be lost." Together, they set out for the northern mountains, accompanied by a small group of trusted advisors. The journey was grueling, taking them through icy peaks and narrow valleys. By the time they reached the rebels' camp, both were exhausted, but they pressed on. Knowing what was at stake. When they arrived, Kale greeted them with a cold glare. "What are you doing here?" he demanded. "Come to gloat about your little victory in the council?" "No," Vylara replied calmly. "I came to talk, to find a way to end this without bloodshed." Kale laughed bitterly. "There's nothing to talk about. You betrayed our family, our people, and now you think you can just walk in here and fix everything with words." "I don't expect you to understand," Vylara said, her voice steady, despite the anger in Kale's tone. "But I do expect you to listen. This isn't about me. It's about Zorothea. About giving everyone a chance to thrive, not just those who fit your idea of perfection." For a moment, Kale looked conflicted. Then his expression hardened again. "It's too late for that. You've already turned the people against us. Against me." "That's not true," Vylara countered. "The people aren't against you. They're against the system that keeps dividing them. A system you're clinging to because you're afraid of change." Kale stepped closer, his fists clenched. "You don't get to lecture me about fear. You spent your whole life running from who you are." This time, it was Ethan who spoke up. "That's not fair," he said firmly. Vylara has faced more rejection than any of us can imagine, yet she still fights for what's right. Can you say the same? Ko glared at him, then turned back to Vylara. Fine, say what you came to say. But don't expect me to agree. Vylara took a deep breath. I'm not asking you to agree. I'm asking you to consider the future of our planet. If we keep fighting each other, we'll destroy everything our ancestors worked so hard to build. Is that really what you want? The tension in the air was palpable as Kale considered her words. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he shook his head. I won't stand with you, he said. But I won't fight you either, not today. Go back to your palace and rule however you see fit. Just know that this isn't over. Though it wasn't the resolution Vylara had hoped for, she accepted it. Thank you, she said simply. Then, turning to the rest of the rebels, she added, to all of you, I may not have your trust, but I promise to work every day to earn it. For HerHFY, as they left the camp and began their journey back to the capital, Ethan glanced at Vylara. Do you think he meant it? That he won't fight? I don't know, Vylara admitted. But for now, it's enough. Every step toward peace is worth taking. Back in the city, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be under Vylara's new leadership. Her reforms continued to gain traction, inspiring hope among the younger generation. Schools introduced programs that celebrated diversity, businesses prioritized innovation over tradition, and public forums encouraged open dialogue between citizens. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. One afternoon while walking through the marketplace, Ethan noticed how different the atmosphere felt. Gone were the whispers and judgmental stares. Instead, laughter and conversation filled the air. Stalls displayed goods crafted by artisans of all backgrounds, and children played together without hesitation. He couldn't help but smile at the sight. It's amazing, isn't it? Vylara said, joining him. To see how much has changed in such a short time. It is, Ethan agreed. And it's all because of you. Vylara shook her head. Not just me. Everyone who believed in this vision helped make it happen, including you. Their bond had grown stronger with each passing day. What started as friendship had blossomed into love, a connection that transcended differences and united them in purpose. Though some Zorathians still whispered about their relationship, most had come to admire Ethan for standing by Vylara during her toughest moments. One evening, as they watched the twin suns dip below the horizon, Vylara turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. Do you ever miss Earth? She asked. Sometimes, Ethan admitted. But being here with you makes it feel like home. Vylara smiled, her silver skin glowing softly in the twilight. You've given me so much hope, courage, and a reason to keep going. I don't know how to thank you. You already have, Ethan replied. By showing me that love isn't about appearances or species. It's about understanding, acceptance, and believing in each other. As they stood there, surrounded by the beauty of HerHFY, they knew their journey was far from over. There would still be obstacles ahead, but together they were ready to face them. With determination, compassion, and an unbreakable partnership, they vowed to continue building a brighter future, not just for themselves, but for everyone who called HerHFY home. Months passed, and HerHFY began to feel like a new world. Under Vylara's leadership, the planet flourished in ways no one had imagined. The reforms she introduced brought opportunities to those who had long been ignored. Artisans, inventors, and thinkers from all corners of the planet were celebrated for their talents rather than judged by their looks. Schools taught lessons about unity and innovation, encouraging young Zorathians to dream bigger than ever before. The change was slow but steady, and it gave people hope. Ethan played a key role in this transformation. He became a bridge between humans and Zorathians, helping both species understand each other better. His presence challenged the old prejudices that had once divided them. Though some still doubted him, many came to see him as an ally and, more importantly, as someone who truly cared about Zorathia's future. Ethan didn't mind the challenges. He knew meaningful progress often came with resistance. What mattered most to him was standing by Vylara and supporting her vision. Despite these successes, Kale remained a looming threat. Though he had promised not to fight, his bitterness hadn't faded. Instead, he retreated to the northern mountains, where he continued to plot against Vylara. Rumors spread that he was gathering allies, building an army to overthrow her. While Vylara tried to focus on governing, the whispers of rebellion weighed heavily on her mind. One evening, as she sat in the royal library, reviewing plans for new infrastructure projects, Ethan entered quietly. He could tell something was troubling her. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside her. Vylara sighed, setting down the documents she'd been reading. "I've heard reports about Kale. He's recruiting followers again. Some say he's planning an attack." Ethan frowned. "Do you think he'll act soon?" "I don't know," Vylara admitted. "But I can't ignore it. If we wait too long, it might be too late." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Then let's prepare. We've faced challenges before, and we'll face this one together." The next day, Vylara called a meeting with her advisors. They discussed strategies to strengthen the city's defenses and ensure the safety of its citizens. She also sent envoys to neighboring regions, urging leaders to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity. Though she hoped to avoid conflict, she knew she couldn't afford to be unprepared. Meanwhile, Ethan decided to take matters into his own hands. He volunteered to scout the northern mountains, hoping to gather intelligence on Kale's movements. Vylara initially refused, fearing for his safety, but Ethan insisted. "If we know what he's planning, we can stop him before he strikes," he argued. Reluctantly, Vylara agreed, sending a small team of trusted guards with him. The journey to the mountains was treacherous. Snowstorms raged, and the terrain was steep and unstable. But Ethan pressed on, driven by his determination to protect Vylara and the people she loved. When they reached Kale's camp, they observed from a distance, careful not to be seen. What they discovered was alarming. Kale had amassed a sizable force, equipped with weapons and technology stolen from abandoned ruins. Ethan returned to the capital with grim news. "He's planning to attack within days," he told Vylara. "We need to act now." Vylara nodded, her expression resolute. "Then we'll meet him head-on. If Kale wants a fight, we'll give him one, but on our terms." The following morning, Vylara addressed the citizens of Zorathia. Standing on the palace steps, she spoke with unwavering confidence. "My friends, we have worked hard to build a brighter future for our planet. But there are those who seek to destroy what we've created. My brother Kale is leading an army to seize control of our city. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. Together, we will defend our home not out of hatred, but out of love for what we've built." Her words inspired the crowd. Citizens rallied around her, volunteering to help fortify the city and stand guard. Even those who had once doubted her now pledged their loyalty, moved by her courage and determination. When Kale's forces arrived at the outskirts of the capital, they found the city prepared for battle. Barricades lined the streets, and defenders stood ready, armed with tools and makeshift weapons. At the forefront was Vylara, holding the glowing orb that symbolized her authority and hope for the future. Kale approached, flanked by his loyalists. His eyes burned with anger as he glared at his sister. "You really think you can win this?" he sneered. "Your little experiment ends today." "It doesn't have to end like this," Vylara replied, her voice calm but firm. "Stand down." "Kale, there's still time to make peace." "There is no peace," Kale shouted. "Not while you sit on the throne." With that, he signaled his forces to charge. The battle began, chaos erupting as the two sides clashed. Ethan fought alongside Vylara, using his quick thinking and resourcefulness to outmaneuver Kale's troops. Despite being outnumbered, the defenders held their ground, driven by their belief in Vylara's vision. As the fighting raged on, Vylara confronted Kale directly. They faced off in the central square, the glowing orb hovering between them. "This isn't about power or revenge," Vylara said. "It's about choosing a better path for everyone." Kale hesitated, torn between his anger and the realization that his cause was lost. Around them, his forces began to retreat, overwhelmed by the unity and resilience of the defenders. Finally lowering his weapon, Kale stepped back. "Do what you want," he muttered bitterly. "But mark my words, this isn't over." Though Kale fled into exile, the victory belonged to Vylara and her people. As the dust settled, cheers erupted throughout the city. Citizens embraced one another, celebrating their triumph and the strength they had shown together. Ethan stood beside Vylara, his heart swelling with pride. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved Zorothia." "We did it," Vylara corrected, smiling through tears of relief. "None of this would have been possible without you." In the days that followed, life in the capital returned to normal. The scars of battle remained, but so did the spirit of resilience. Vylara continued to lead with wisdom and compassion, guided by the principles of fairness and unity. Ethan stayed by her side, honored to play a part in shaping the planet's future. One evening, as they watched the twin suns set over the horizon, Vylara turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think we've finally turned a corner?" she asked. "I think so," Ethan replied. "There will always be challenges, but as long as we face them together, we'll keep moving forward." Vylara leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Together, they had overcome rejection, prejudice, and even war. And though the road ahead would never be easy, they faced it with hope, love, and an unshakable belief in the power of change. Months passed, and Zorothia began to feel like a new world. Under Vylara's leadership, the planet flourished in ways no one had imagined. The reforms she introduced brought opportunities to those who had long been ignored. Artisans, inventors, and thinkers from all corners of the planet were celebrated for their talents rather than judged by their looks. Schools taught lessons about unity and innovation, encouraging young Zorothians to dream bigger than ever before. The change was slow but steady, and it gave people hope. Ethan played a key role in this transformation. He became a bridge between humans and Zorothians, helping both species understand each other better. His presence challenged the old prejudices that had once divided them. Though some still doubted him, many came to see him as an ally and, more importantly, as someone who truly cared about Zorothia's future. Ethan didn't mind the challenges. He knew meaningful progress often came with resistance. What mattered most to him was standing by Vylara and supporting her vision. Despite these successes, Kale remained a looming threat. Though he had promised not to fight, his bitterness hadn't faded. Instead, he retreated to the northern mountains, where he continued to plot against Vylara. Rumors spread that he was gathering allies, building an army to overthrow her. While Vylara tried to focus on governing, the whispers of rebellion weighed heavily on her mind. One evening, as she sat in the royal library, reviewing plans for new infrastructure projects, Ethan entered quietly. He could tell something was troubling her. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside her. Vylara sighed, setting down the document she'd been reading. "I've heard reports about Kale. He's recruiting followers again. Some say he's planning an attack." Ethan frowned. "Do you think he'll act soon?" "I don't know," Vylara admitted, "but I can't ignore it. If we wait too long, it might be too late." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on hers. "Then let's prepare. We've faced challenges before, and we'll face this one together." The next day, Vylara called a meeting with her advisors. They discussed strategies to strengthen the city's defenses and ensure the safety of its citizens. She also sent envoys to neighboring regions, urging leaders to remain vigilant and report any suspicious activity. Though she hoped to avoid conflict, she knew she couldn't afford to be unprepared. Meanwhile, Ethan decided to take matters into his own hands. He volunteered to scout the northern mountains, hoping to gather intelligence on Kale's movements. Vylara initially refused, fearing for his safety, but Ethan insisted. "If we know what he's planning, we can stop him before he strikes," he argued. Reluctantly, Vylara agreed, sending a small team of trusted guards with him. The journey to the mountains was treacherous. Snowstorms raged, and the terrain was steep and unstable. But Ethan pressed on, driven by his determination to protect Vylara and the people she loved. When they reached Kale's camp, they observed from a distance, careful not to be seen. What they discovered was alarming. Kale had amassed a sizable force. Equipped with weapons and technology stolen from abandoned ruins, Ethan returned to the capital with grim news. "He's planning to attack within days," he told Vylara. "We need to act now," Vylara nodded, her expression resolute. "Then we'll meet him head-on. If Kale wants a fight, we'll give him one but on our terms." The following morning, Vylara addressed the citizens of HerHFY. Standing on the palace steps, she spoke with unwavering confidence. "My friends, we have worked hard to build a brighter future for our planet. But there are those who seek to destroy what we've created. My brother Kale is leading an army to seize control of our city. We cannot let fear dictate our actions. Together, we will defend our home not out of hatred, but out of love for what we've built." Her words inspired the crowd. Citizens rallied around her, volunteering to help fortify the city and stand guard. Even those who had once doubted her now pledged their loyalty, moved by her courage and determination. When Kale's forces arrived at the outskirts of the capital, they found the city prepared for battle. Barricades lined the streets, and defenders stood ready, armed with tools and makeshift weapons. At the forefront was Vylara, holding the glowing orb that symbolized her authority and hope for the future. Kale approached, flanked by his loyalists. His eyes burned with anger as he glared at his sister. "You really think you can win this?" he sneered. "Your little experiment ends today." "It doesn't have to end like this," Vylara replied, her voice calm but firm. "Stand down. Kale, there's still time to make peace." "There is no peace," Kale shouted. "Not while you sit on the throne." With that, he signaled his forces to charge. The battle began, chaos erupting as the two sides clashed. Ethan fought alongside Vylara, using his quick thinking and resourcefulness to outmaneuver Kale's troops. Despite being outnumbered, the defenders held their ground, driven by their belief in Vylara's vision. As the fighting raged on, Vylara confronted Kale directly. They faced off in the central square, the glowing orb hovering between them. "This isn't about power or revenge," Vylara said. "It's about choosing a better path for everyone." Kale hesitated, torn between his anger and the realization that his cause was lost. Around them, his forces began to retreat, overwhelmed by the unity and resilience of the defenders. Finally, lowering his weapon, Kale stepped back. "Do what you want," he muttered bitterly. "But mark my words, this isn't over." Though Kale fled into exile, the victory belonged to Vylara and her people. As the dust settled, cheers erupted throughout the city. Citizens embraced one another, celebrating their triumph and the strength they had shown together. Ethan stood beside Vylara, his heart swelling with pride. "You did it," he said softly. "You saved HerHFY." "We did it," Vylara corrected, smiling through tears of relief. "None of this would have been possible without you." In the days that followed, life in the capital returned to normal. The scars of battle remained, but so did the spirit of resilience. Vylara continued to lead with wisdom and compassion, guided by the principles of fairness and unity. Ethan stayed by her side, honored to play a part in shaping the planet's future. One evening, as they watched the twin suns set over the horizon, Vylara turned to Ethan with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think we've finally turned the corner?" she asked. "I think so," Ethan replied. "There will always be challenges, but as long as we face them together, we'll keep moving forward." Vylara leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. Together, they had overcome rejection, prejudice, and even war. And though the road ahead would never be easy, they faced it with hope, love, and an unshakable belief in the power of change.